What up, Space Fam? Goes in here from Anime Uproar, back at it again to discuss another Demon Slayer character. And this time we're going over a character that's very interesting and possibly more hateable than Doma himself, so make sure to stay tuned for this one. If you do enjoy these Demon Slayer videos and want to keep them coming, you know what to do. Channel the Slayer within and smash that like button with no mercy. Remember, smashing is strongest Demon Slayer energy and passing is scared Muzan energy, so choose wisely. If you haven't, make this the video, subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications or you will miss future Demon Slayer videos and updates, including updates about the exciting upcoming seasons. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. So Kaigaku's story starts before he was competing with Zenitsu over who will inherit the Thunder aka Rumble Hashira position. And yes, in one of the extra pages it is explained that the thunder breathing Hashira is officially called the Rumble Hashira, but I'll often use thunder instead so people actually know what I'm talking about and to limit confusion. Kaigaku, and you might miss this on the first read through, is actually the little kid who betrayed Stone Hashira Gyomei and the children he was taking care of in his backstory. As another extra page in the 17th volume of the manga tells us, Kaigaku is the boy who invited the demon who attacked Himejima's temple. The other children had discovered that he stole money from the temple, so they confronted him and drove him outside that night. Himejima's blindness is one reason he never knew Kaigaku was missing until the attacking demon mentioned it. Another reason is that other children lied and said Kaigaku was sleeping." End quote. So Gyomei's whole tragic origin story, where he lost most of the orphans he was taking care of and then got blamed for their deaths too, is directly related to Kaigaku, who betrayed all of them to keep his own life. As we'll see, making deals with demons to get his own life spared, even at the cost of other people's lives, is an ongoing pattern in Kaigaku's life. We see a flash of Kaigaku during chapter 34 when Zenitsu is remembering his own training days. By now, he's went from being that demon-dealing kid to being Zenitsu's thunder-breathing senpai. Not surprisingly, this self-centered dude was mean to Zenitsu. He told him to get lost, called him a loser, asked him if he's embarrassed to be crying from dawn to dusk. Kaigaku clearly spoke to Zenitsu as if Zenitsu was beneath him, and by all accounts, he was skill-wise. After all, Kaigaku knew all the thunder-breathing forms except the first one, while Zenitsu only knew the first one. To be fair, Kaigaku did get ridiculed for not knowing the first one since it is foundational, but it was probably symbolic for Sensei aka Gramps aka former Hashira Jigoro of how Kaigaku and Zenitsu could make up for each other's weaknesses and share the title of the Thunder Hashira. Kaigaku though felt like he was superior and he was there longer than Zenitsu was. So he felt jealous and ironically he felt betrayed that he was no longer the only special person to Jigoro. And I say ironic because he's obviously the real traitor. But moving on, during the Hashira training arc, Zenitsu gets a letter letting him know that his Thunder Gramps has taken his own life because the Thunder Breather he trained, namely Kaigaku, turned into a demon willingly. This changes Zenitsu's usually comedic manner and he becomes uncharacteristically serious. He's so serious because of course the loss of his Gramps devastated him, but also because he is solely focused on getting revenge on Kaigaku for what he did to the man who was like a father figure to both of them. Yeah, Zenitsu usually calls him Gramps, but Zenitsu was an orphan and Jigoro was the closest thing he ever had to a father as well. Thus, Kaigaku wasn't just like a senpai to him, but like a brother. At that point in his life, Jigoro and Kaigaku were the only special people in Zenitsu's life, and now he has to kill one for embracing the dark side and leading to the death of the other. Best case scenario, even if he wins, he's lost everyone that used to be important to him in that period of his life, and of course, that's no laughing matter. This seriousness carries over to when Zenitsu finally confronts Upper Moon 6 Kaigaku during the Infinity Castle arc. Now, Kaigaku used to be stronger than Zenitsu. Zenitsu even spoke about how he looked up to Kaigaku and was inspired by his senpai's example. And now, this superior fighter not only has demon enhancements, but Upper Moon demon enhancements. He's so strong that Muzan let him fill Daki and Gyutaro's old position. And remember, the only other Slayer who soloed an Upper Moon before, besides Yoriichi of course, was Muichiro, who is considered to be one of the most talented Hashira. So clearly it looks like Zenitsu is outmatched from the get-go. Still, Zenitsu is not afraid. It's almost like he's too mad to be afraid, and unlike usual, he stays conscious throughout the fight. After Zenitsu orders him to come out, Kaigaku says that's no way to speak to your senior. Then he appears, saying that Zenitsu is still shabby, and Zenitsu says now that he's a demon, Zenitsu no longer thinks of Kaigaku as his senior, and you could substitute the word senpai or brother here as well. Kaigaku keeps insulting Zenitsu like in the old days, calling him little runt and saying he's still weak, and patronizingly wondering if Zenitsu can use anything besides the first form. Zenitsu has grown though and can now fire back. He's not the crybaby he used to be, and he tells Kaigaku that the demon seems pretty thrilled to have reached the very bottom ranks through merely filling in blank positions. And that's a good observation to note when considering how strong Kaigaku is. Is he actually strong enough to be an upper moon, or was he just put in there because Muzan wanted to fill the position? Well, I think Zenitsu is doing a great job trash talking, but at the same time, I think Kaigaku is strong enough to be upper moon 6. They didn't need to fill every position. They didn't even fill upper moon 5, which you know Muzan could have done if he just wanted to fill positions. So I think that yeah, Kaigaku deserves the spot, and in turn, Zenitsu deserves the credit for fighting a Muzan approved official upper moon. Zenitsu confronts Kaigaku about Gramps' painful death, but Kaigaku says he doesn't care. He doesn't care about anyone who doesn't value him. And why did he think Gramps didn't value him? Simply because he wouldn't make Kaigaku Jigoro's sole successor. He wanted to make Kaigaku and Zenitsu joint successors, aka joint Thunder Hashira, and Kaigaku hated the idea, thinking he was so much above Zenitsu. Self-centered greed / arrogance is definitely Kaigaku's biggest vice. For most people, they would have been thrilled to be a Hashira. Who cares if you share the title with someone else? But Kaigaku needed more. He needed all the recognition, all the power he could grab, and that's why he became a demon. After Kaigaku again emphasizes that Zenitsu shouldn't lump them together, the fight gets started. Kaigaku's abilities are very impressive. If you didn't know this yet, it's important to note that demon slayers don't actually produce or summon their breathing element. So when you're seeing lightning in the series or flames from Tanjiro's Dance of the Fire God, they are not actually real. The elements are there to emphasize how much the sword swings actually look like their elements, and let's just say it, to make everything more hype, and they succeed in doing that. However, that's what makes demon breath style users like Kaigaku so fascinating. They can use their blood demon art to actually produce the elements in question, making whatever breathing style they used to use way more deadly. In Kaigaku's case, his attacks actually produce lightning, and they made it black lightning, which is a really cool choice. Probably too cool for a character like Kaigaku. Kaigaku's first attack is Thunder Breathing, 4th form, Distant Thunder. The attack sends out lightning in all directions, and as the name suggests, it overcomes a common flaw with swordsmanship. It allows Kaigaku to launch deadly long-range attacks. Zenitsu though is even more amazing with his speed, and ends up cutting Kaigaku's neck before the new upper moon even knew what hit him. Zenitsu calls him too slow, and Kaigaku can't help but think that Zenitsu is very fast and like a completely different person when compared to the one he used to know. Kaigaku is not done yet though, since Zenitsu didn't actually take his head off completely. We get a flashback of when Kokushibo was giving Kaigaku the blood to become a demon, and it's revealed that to turn someone who can use breathing techniques into a demon, they must receive a great deal of blood from Muzan. Thus, since more Muzan blood usually equals a stronger demon, it's implied that breath style users like Kaigaku have the potential to become especially strong demons. Keep in mind during this fight against Zenitsu, as will be brought up later, Kaigaku is a very new demon, and chances are he would move up the upper moon ranks if he had more time to gain more strength and master his powers. Back to the fight, and Kaigaku is angry at Zenitsu's strength, speed, and patronizing tone. He's trying to convince himself that Zenitsu is weak and worthless, but he's clearly shook. Nevertheless, he attacks with Thunder Breathing 2nd form, Rice Spirit. As usual, this attack gives off black lightning, but it also includes 5 successive attacks in one breath, and in the blink of an eye. This attack does cut Zenitsu's flesh, and Zenitsu can't help but notice that Kaigaku's eaten so many people already. And as we know, usually the more people you eat as a demon, the stronger you're supposed to get. Kaigaku then launches 3rd form Thunder Swarm, which includes him quickly appearing from different directions and attacking over and over again, as if there were a swarm of him and not just one. From the outside, Zenitsu looks like he's in the center, trapped by waves of black lightning that surround him in all directions. This attack cuts Zenitsu's flesh even more and in multiple places. They are not deadly deep wounds on their own, but as we'll see, even one cut from Kaigaku could be the beginning of the end for a human opponent. Kaigaku then launches 5th form Heat Lightning, another long-range attack that hits the target with a concentrated bolt of black lightning. Once it hits, it moves to surround the whole body of the opponent with hot black lightning. While Zenitsu's on the defensive, Kaigaku asks him, "How's the sharpness of my blade infused with Blood Demon art?" An attack that slashes and burns the flesh. He goes on to use Thunder Breathing 6th form, Rumble and Flash. This attack gets almost an entire 2-page spread, so you can assume it's the strongest of Kaigaku's attacks. Again, it appears to launch long-range Black Lightning attacks, but this time the lightning slashes like a sword, and Zenitsu is hit in multiple places at the same time, at least 6 places by my count. Kaigaku explains that any slashing attacks Zenitsu takes will continue to rend, aka tear apart his flesh. Kaigaku says, and I quote, "My power burns into your eyes and body. I became a demon and surpassed Thunder Breathing," end quote. And in a sense, he really did. He didn't surpass it in the sense that he could beat any Thunder Breather, but he did surpass the limitation of not actually being able to produce lightning. It's undeniable that this ability to produce lightning comes in handy in combat, especially when you consider, as he said, the attacks continue to spread like poison in the body, tearing apart more and more flesh. Pretty soon the slashes on Zenitsu's face will spread to his eyes, and then he'd lose his vision, and then they could spread to his brain, and you could see how very quickly this battle could be over. It's one of the deadliest Blood Demon arts we've seen. However, Kaigaku still isn't as special as he thinks he is. As Zenitsu's remembering his gramps telling him to be more like his big brother Kaigaku, he also remembers some kids making fun of Kaigaku for not being able to learn the foundational first form. Zenitsu defended his big bro, and instead of being flattered, Kaigaku berated him, saying, and I quote, "I heard you hit a higher ranking guy. Don't cause problems. It's embarrassing you're even here," end quote. Even if they sort of hated each other, Zenitsu respected Kaigaku from the bottom of his heart, because he worked so hard and he was always ahead of Zenitsu. Zenitsu was always looking at his back, to use his own words. Zenitsu says Gramps and Kaigaku were special and important people to him, but for Kaigaku that wasn't enough. He was never satisfied. And so he went down the wrong path because he never put a stop to his greedy desires. This is when Zenitsu overcomes their old connection once and for all. He apologizes to his Gramps and to Kaigaku and unleashes the epic Zenitsu created 7th form of Thunder Breathing, Flaming Thunder God, or Honoi Kaizuchi no Kami. The attack finishes Kaigaku off, no problem. Furthermore, it was so fast Kaigaku, a demon-enhanced Thunder Breather, couldn't even see it. Ironically, Zenitsu created that form because he wanted to be able to fight with Kaigaku as an equal, but he actually ended up surpassing him with it. It's funny how the guy who just wanted to be equal became stronger, and the guy who always thought he was stronger turned out to be weaker. It really goes to show the importance of doing your best without being arrogant and greedy. I've said this before, it's likely that Zenitsu could have unleashed this attack sooner and finished off Kaigaku, but I think he was also trying to work through the idea of taking the life of his brother, and it took him some time to build up enough conviction to do it. That is likely in my view, but it is an assumption, not a fact. And since we are trying to make a case for Kaigaku's strength, since this video is focused on Kaigaku, let's just look at the outcome for a second. While Kaigaku is dying, he feels relieved that at least Zenitsu will lose too. It's not his loss, it's more like a tie, Kaigaku thinks, since an exhausted Zenitsu is falling to his doom as well. Ironically, at this point, the guy who always thought he was better is trying to make himself feel better by saying it was a tie. But then, Yushiro comes in and saves Zenitsu, showing how important making connections and being nice to people is. So if we strictly look at the outcome and what happened, it actually would have been a tie if it was a pure one-on-one battle, in the sense that Zenitsu would have lost his life too. Even if he somehow survived the fall, the black lightning would have continued to tear apart his flesh until it destroyed him. Luckily though, Yushiro also had an agent that stops the advance of Blood Demon arts developed by Tamayo, so they were able to stop the destruction of Zenitsu's flesh. After the fight, Yushiro goes on to tell Zenitsu that the upper moon he was fighting still hadn't mastered his techniques and abilities, which is lucky. He says if the fight had been 1 year later, Kaigaku probably would have killed Zenitsu immediately. This shows how much potential Kaigaku had. A part of me, since I love Zenitsu, thinks that Zenitsu would have gotten a lot stronger in a year too, so maybe it doesn't matter. But we're focusing on Kaigaku in this video, and so we should fully consider the implications of Yushiro's words here. Thus, in Kaigaku, we have a dude who was considered to be better at thunder breathing than Zenitsu when they were training under Gramps. He then became a demon so strong that Muzan approved of him being Upper Moon 6. He developed cool and OP Black Lightning powers that greatly enhanced the power, speed, and deadliness of his thunder breathing forms. And finally, he, unexperienced as he was, arguably got a tie in a one-on-one fight to the death against Zenitsu, who had to create a brand new thunder-breathing form, I'd argue the strongest of all forms, to take his life. Following the fight, Yushiro felt like Kaigaku probably would have won instantly if he had another year to actually master his demon techniques and abilities. So those are the facts. I do personally think Zenitsu should be considered stronger than Kaigaku, but I also think Zenitsu is arguably the strongest thunder breather in history after the creation of his 7th form, so that doesn't make Kaigaku weak. And once we take Yushiro's words about Kaigaku's inexperience into account, it's easy to assume that Kaigaku could have become a real monster given enough time. I think he definitely deserved the Upper Moon 6 spot, and given the hype the story places around breath style using demons, it's easy to picture him moving up the ranks. I can personally easily see him surpassing the old Upper Moon 5 in power, the one that Muichiro beat, if he were given enough time to. He clearly wasn't there yet though, or Muzan would have just gave him the empty Upper Moon 5 position rather than specifically placing him in the number 6 position. But that is it for Kaigaku, one of the most hateable characters, I'd argue even more hateable than Doma, but he managed to get his hands on one of the coolest powers, a black lightning demon art that epically enhanced his thunder breathing forms. Both of these factors made his fight with Zenitsu one of the most satisfying fights in the entire series, if not the most satisfying one. If you did enjoy this video and want to keep the Demon Slayer videos coming, you know what to do, channel the Slayer within and smash that like button with no mercy. Remember, smashing is strongest Demon Slayer energy and passing is scared Muzan energy, so choose wisely. If you haven't, make this the video, subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future Demon Slayer videos and updates, including updates about the exciting upcoming seasons. And while you wait for the next video to drop, feel free to check out my huge and growing Demon Slayer playlist that includes videos on all the Demon Moons, all Hashira, and much more. Link to that is in the description. And until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.